This is just a really quick overview of what we are going to be kind of looking at today or talking about today. Really quick garden tour. It's going to be super quick because there's not a whole lot to look at here. It's basically just telling you guys what I have planted, kind of where things are, and how we opted to put things in this year. This whole first row down here is actually cherry tomatoes. We actually had a lot of issues with the cherry tomatoes so far this year. Pretty much all of them got burnt out. We put 12 in, and I think 1, 2, 3, we have maybe 4 or 5 that have survived. A ton of them got burnt out in the really bad heat wave that we had, and then now recently all of our temperatures have dropped. Like today it's 50 degrees, it's pretty cold. Our nights are getting down into the 30s. We're hovering right above that freezing temperature, so a lot of things took a really big hit and are kind of stunted and struggling, and the cherry tomatoes are definitely one that struggled just because they were some of the smallest starts that we put in the ground, and I don't think they were quite ready for the drastic shifting in temperatures from being really, really hot to really, really cold. So I'm hoping that we don't lose any more, because that's kind of what I would like to have, because my kids love to snack on cherry tomatoes. We use them in eggs, we use them in a ton of different pasta salads throughout the summer. So I'm hoping that we don't lose any more than what we already have. But the ones that we do have flowers on them, and I've actually been just on my cherry tomatoes picking these flowers off. Like you can see, we have a cherry tomato actually starting right there. But I've been trying to pluck them off just on the cherry tomatoes so that that energy can go back into the plant. You guys might remember back in the spring we started a ton of plants together, and some of the plants that we actually started were a lot of tomatoes. Well, I had a ton of shelves with all my starts on them, and as I was hardening them off, I was actually carrying one of those shelves outside. The dogs came up from behind me, tripped me, and I dropped the entire shelf with all like 100 tomato plants on it. All my paste tomatoes did not make it. So I had to buy all my tomato starts this year, which was really unfortunate. I didn't have time to restart them before we really would have needed to get them in the ground. So I went to a nursery, bought them, but they didn't have any paste tomatoes. All they had were like big slicing tomatoes, which is fine. I'll still be able to can them the way that I want to. They're just not going to be paste tomatoes, which is what I was hoping to have this year. So it still is going to work out. I'm not that worried about it, but they look absolutely fantastic. I think there's like 40 or 50 tomato plants, and as they are going to grow, we're putting cattle panels up so that we can trellis all of these tomatoes, grow up vertically, help support them a little bit. We've never done that before, so I'm excited to do that. We haven't done it yet because we had a crazy bad flu bug come through our house. It actually took about 2 weeks to make its way through all 6 of us. We're all feeling a lot better now though, so a lot of projects kind of got pushed to the wayside. It's actually the first time I've spent any time down here in the garden looking in probably about a week and a half, just because we've been busy doing with sick kids, being sick ourselves. Like you can see, we've definitely got some flowers coming in here. The stems are really thick, they're looking great. I'm hoping in the next week or so we can get these tomatoes trellised up here. Another thing you're gonna notice is that we put straw down around all our plants. This is something we experimented with last year with just our peppers, and it was the best pepper harvest we've ever had. It kept the weeds away. We also live in just a really big field. There's no shade, so the garden gets sun from the time the sun comes up to the time the sun goes down, which usually means we have to put a lot of water on here, take a lot of time watering it, and that's not always feasible. So this year, tons of straw down. We do have obviously some weeds kind of poking through, but I haven't had to weed this garden once, and it's saving me so much time and so much energy, and hopefully I'll be able to put more time into actually taking care of plants and making sure that the plant itself is really healthy and doing really well, so I'm excited about that. So lots of squash coming up, which is exciting. I like to direct sow my squash. The very next couple rows, the next 3 rows, are all just different varieties of tomato plants. Because I had to get all my plants from the nursery, I did also get a pack of 4 like golden tomatoes, so they're all gonna be yellow. They're supposed to be a little bit more sweet, a little less tart, so I figured it would be really fun to make like possibly a hot sauce with it or something, or use them for a salsa recipe or something. So I got a pack of 4 and they all look really great, so I'm excited to see how those go over. We have a handful of peppers here. These The peppers are what took the hardest hit with the varying temperatures. Peppers like to be warm, and it's just getting really cold, so they're really stunted. They're not looking bad, but they definitely haven't grown too much. The straw is helping keeping them insulated, which is really good. It is helping to keep their roots warm, so hopefully the cold temperatures don't hurt them too bad, but they're looking pretty good. Here, I also bought some peppers from the nursery because the peppers were also on the shelf that I dropped, so it actually worked out. So these are, I got some green California Wonders. I also ended up picking up a 4-pack of yellow peppers and a 4-pack of red peppers. So hopefully we'll have a variety of different colored peppers, which will be really nice to get a little bit of a variety in the freezer peppers wise. I also want to try getting whole stuffed peppers in the freezer this year for freezer meals to be able to use throughout the winter time. So I'm excited to try that. I've never done that before. So I'm kind of excited about that. We have another row of just all peppers here. I'm kind of determining or trying to figure out if I want to trellis the peppers as well. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we will, because they're in the same line as the tomatoes. So maybe we'll try that this year. And just a couple more peppers here. I also picked up some kale while I was at the nursery. These are looking really, really great. We grew these last year for the first time. They did really well in our area, and I like freezing these. These did really well for us last year, and I liked throwing these in eggs, and I think my favorite way to use these is in quiche. You are gonna have to ignore the chickens rattling in the background like crazy. We have a ton of chickens right now trying to sit on unfertilized eggs, so we keep taking them from them, and they are getting so upset with us. We have one chicken right now sitting on a clutch of eggs that are actually fertilized, and because we're letting her keep her eggs, everyone else wants to keep theirs, and that's not always the case. So I just went in there and got eggs. That's why they're so upset with me. I'm growing cabbage for the first time. We have a chicken that kept flying over the fence here. We clipped their wings, so we took care of that issue, but she got out the other day and ate my cabbage down, but it keeps coming back, so I'm not super worried about it. But I did get a couple things of cabbage. My goal is to actually can some coleslaw mix. That way we can have them throughout the winter when my husband makes fish tacos with some of the panfish and stuff that he catches through ice fishing. That way we always have like a fresh-ish pizza topping. That way if it's like the middle of the month or something and I don't have some fresh vegetables in the fridge to make a slaw, I have some canned stuff that we can just pop open and have. So I have 4 here, but I want to say I have more cabbage somewhere else in the garden. I can't quite remember. Like I said, it's been a while since we've been down here, but a couple heads of cabbage this year, so I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm pretty sure these are either more cabbage or possibly Brussels sprouts. I've never grown Brussels sprouts before, but I was at the nursery. They were really cheap. It was like $1 something for 4 Brussels sprouts, so I went ahead and got some, and we'll see how those go. I've never had Brussels sprouts, neither have my kids, so we'll see if they like them or not. I've got some zucchini here. I'm pretty sure I have 4 of those through here. They're looking fantastic. Through here we have some broccoli and cauliflower. I don't have nearly as many broccoli or cauliflower plants that I need. My starts did not do very well. I'm still learning when it comes to making my own starts, and by the time I got to the nursery they were completely sold out. So it just kind of is what it is. I'll either have to buy from like a farmer's stand or something the rest of my broccoli to get us through the winter, or maybe barter or trade with somebody for something that I have extra of, and we can help each other out that way. So a couple cabbage, or a couple cauliflowers, a couple broccolis. I can't remember which was which. I didn't plant all of these plants. My husband helped. My brother actually came down and helped put the garden in with us as well, so he put some plants in, so I'm not quite sure where everything is anymore, but got a couple of those. Yeah, so this whole row is just variation of either squash, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflowers, all those fun things. Now through here, these are actually some hot peppers that I put in. While we were at the nursery, they had hot peppers, and I just kind of thought, why not? You know, my dad put the garden in as well, and my brother was like, oh, I'm gonna get my dad a ghost pepper plant because like I said, the nursery we go to is super cheap. It was like $1 for one ghost pepper plant, and my dad was like, yeah, no thanks, I don't want it. So I put it in my garden. It's gonna make some crazy hot sauce, so we're gonna see how that goes. These peppers right here, I got 2 of these peppers. These are Mad Hatters, which is like a sweet and spicy pepper. I'm excited to see how those goes. I think those will make some fun salsas or hot sauces or something for gifts. Maybe even some hot pepper jelly to put like on burgers or something, which I think will be super fun. And then this is one of those, or I have 2 of these big Jim peppers that we started together. You can see these are looking very sad, very sad, but I'm hoping they perk up when the weather gets a little bit better here. I think I have 3 of those actually, 1, 2, 3. So these were a hot but spicy pepper. So I'm excited about these. I've never grown them before. I hope that they do well here. I don't find the need to start my squash indoors. It does really well in my area. Just pop them in the ground. Plus it saves time and it saves money. I don't have to worry about putting them in or starting them indoors and taking care of them. If I can just pop them in the ground, that's what I'm gonna do. It works well for me in my area. It might be different for you, but that's what I do here. I ended up putting some onions in, and they're just kind of starting to pop up here. I planted 75 bulb onions through this whole line down here, and I actually ended up having a couple more. It's my first time doing, well, I did onions last year, but I think I only put in like 10 bulbs just as an experiment to get a little bit of experience. I'm not sure how far they're supposed to be spaced, so I also ended up putting some in this row here, and you can see I've got a couple popping up here, which is really exciting. The rest of this row, I think the onions come to like here maybe. The rest of this row is all peas, and I was really getting nervous, like I said, because nothing was popping up. But just in the last couple days, I've got more and more beautiful little pea plants starting to pop up, which is exciting. The rest of this garden area, which is about half of it, which is everything that we extended from last year. So this was about the size of last year's garden, and we are expanding it this year into this. So this is all new garden space, and I'm really excited about it. Through this area here, we actually planted pumpkins, watermelon, a ton of different types of squash. I was actually really nervous because it had been about 2.5 weeks and I had nothing popping up, but just over the last day or two, things are starting to pop up. So we've got a couple different starts here. The rain came and kind of pushed my seeds around, which happens to me every year, but that's okay. Wherever things end up landing is okay with me. Lots of different things through here. So this is a ton of different squash and melons. If you want to watch my seed hauls, I'll link them down below. That's kind of everything that I put in here. Just rattling them off really quick. We have acorn squash, spaghetti squash, butternut squashes, Big Max pumpkins. I put in regular pumpkins, like carving pumpkins, mini pumpkins for the kids that they like to paint. We'll also make pumpkin puree out of them and different things like that. Right through here in this row, coming off of some of our sweet spicy hot pickles, I actually put in some rutabaga seeds. I put in some basil and some lettuce, and those are just now starting to come up out of the ground. So you can see I've got just a little bit coming up here. I'm pretty sure this is the basil that I put in here, and then I put in my rutabaga towards the end here. I'm not seeing any of it pop up yet, so I'm trying to be patient, but if it's not up in the next couple of days, I think I'm gonna go ahead and replant, but I'm trying to be patient. We have a row of green beans starting to pop up. I actually planted a couple green beans up here as well, probably about 4 or 5 feet of green beans over there. Like you can see, the rain kind of took some seeds and washed them away, plus we've had birds coming, helping kind of pick things up and rip things out. I'm sure the chickens didn't help scratching things up if they got out of their pen. So the rest of what I have planted down here are just carrots, some lettuce, which hasn't come up yet. I might have to redo those. I'm really hoping that the carrots start to pop up soon, because I really do not want to have to replant those. And then another really exciting thing, you can see down here, I actually started right along the very edge of the garden here. This field, this cornfield here isn't ours, it's a farmer's, and I wanted to have a little bit of barrier between their stuff and our garden, especially if they're spraying. I don't want that getting in my garden, so I planted sunflowers all along here just to give it a little bit of a barrier. Plus I'm going to take some chicken wire and run it from post to post on either end of the garden, and then let the weeds kind of climb up, so I'll have the weed fence that I'm going to grow, plus the sunflowers to just help keep whatever they're doing on their field away from my vegetables. That's the plan, at least. Lots of sunflowers popping up. Pretty sure that's a squash plant that got washed down, so might have some squash down here as well. Unless I'm wrong, maybe that is a sunflower plant, but that definitely looks like a squash plant to me. But different variety of sunflower seeds that are planted all along the edge here, so we'll have beautiful sunflowers. Plus they'll just help give a little bit of shade as well, especially if I'm down here with the baby. I can kind of set her on the other side and sit her in the shade while I'm working down here if need be. But rhubarb is looking great, strawberries are looking good. The only thing that I really wanted to get this year that I wasn't able to get my hands on, other than like the broccoli and the cauliflower, was some asparagus. I wanted to put an asparagus patch in, but by the time I got to all the nurseries, everything was gone, so that might be a next year's thing. I did finally take the time to come through and weed this out a little bit. It definitely looks a lot better, but you can see how big and beautiful some of these strawberry plants are that we put in. We actually already have some strawberries coming in, which is very exciting, but a lot of the strawberry plants that we put in are looking great. We planted 25. I think we've probably got about, I don't know, 40 or 50% of them to take. Some of them just, I think, really got hit hard. They didn't transplant well, which is okay, but some of them are smaller. Some of them are a lot bigger, but we've got lots of strawberries coming in, so we might not have enough to preserve off of our strawberries this year, but we definitely will have enough to enjoy some as snacks. Rhubarb's looking great. I haven't had time to pull any of these out and move them. I kind of think I might actually just leave these plants where they are, just because I'm nervous about more of them dying, but they're all looking really great. We didn't get the fence up because of the flu bug, but that's going in soon, and that really should be where this kind of ends, and wait until next year and put a ton more strawberries in it to fill out this patch and make it really plentiful. All of our berry plants are looking really, really good. My husband came in here with a weed whacker and kind of got in between these. That was right before we got sick. So I have to come in here now and kind of, well, you know, clean it up a little bit, get some of the bigger chunks of grass and stuff out of here. But everything's looking pretty decent. It looks like they could use a good drink of water, so I'm gonna drag the sprinkler over and kind of get these all a really good drink. But hopefully these will start providing for us soon as well, and we'll have lots of berries.